Hello and welcome back. Today we are taking a look at Windows XP mode for Windows 7. So basically here we are on Windows 7. This is my first Windows 7 video. We see I have installed Windows Virtual PC, which you actually have to download. This version of Windows Virtual PC was the very last version and is more integrated with the operating system than its predecessors. You see we have the option for Windows XP mode, but it tells us to download it. The website for downloading was shut down about a year ago, but it has been archived elsewhere. And this was actually completely free. I do have the files. My mouse has been acting up, and it still has. So if I can get down to there we go. Let's see. We just go ahead and copy the files over. And this essentially allowed users to run Windows XP only programs on their PC with Windows XP compatibility, better Windows XP compatibility. So let's let it go and copy that file over. And so we see this executable. So when we run it, it starts the setup, and the setup for this program is a lot like setting up an operating system, sort of. This first part isn't exactly like it, but hell, the similarities. So when we get to it has its own like out-of-box experience that's done before you start the virtual machine, which is kind of cool looking. And you'll see that in a few minutes. It's basically a free, semi-restricted version of Windows XP. Really, the only restrictions is they remove pretty much every wallpaper out of the version, and it's just Windows XP Professional Service Pack 3. So we're gonna ahead and enter a password and pay attention to the username, because that can be a little tricky when you finally get into the operating system, because it defaults to administrator, which is not what the password is. So you can tell this is a lot like the out-of-box experience for Windows XP, where you set up a user account and stuff. You can't change the username from this, but you can start set up from, and it's going to. There we go. There's one feature, on the other hand, that I've never been able to get to work. And that's the cool feature where you can actually go to the start menu, or not, because the thing's frozen. Yeah. If you put your thing on Hibernate, the virtual machine, can go down here and actually open the programs on your main Windows 7 computer with a Windows XP theme applied to it. So you'll see the Windows XP border instead of Windows 7 border for those specific applications only. All other applications open in Windows 7 will have obviously this Windows 7 border here, this arrow theme. So this thing here is a modified version of the starting virtual machine that's usually Windows Virtual PC usually includes, as it introduces the user to Windows XP mode. And as you should see, the feature I was talking about that I have not been able to get to work. From here, I guess it's about time I put it on time lapse. So as you can see, integration features will just not work, and I've tried everything in the book that you can try to get it to work, but it just won't. I just say setup failed. So here's where it can get a little confusing when you're logging in for the first time, as the username's not administrator and for some odd reason my keyboard's not working. Oh, my keyboard still works. It's weird. There we go. So we typed XPN user, which was the username for this copy of Windows XP. So it takes a few seconds to load, and it's the only time you'll pretty much hear the start sound if it's going to play at all. Because for some reason it never plays. A second I thought it was a progress bar, but no, it's the Windows XP taskbar loading. If you see that, usually this is where it's the slowest, but this VM inception is not a good idea. So you see XPN user. Ooh, I just started this virtual machine for the first time. I'm curious what's going on. There's a lot of some restrictions, which we'll take a look at here in a second, that kind of differentiates this from a standard copy of Windows XP. And so we just wait for it to load everything. So we can try to click start button, so we can see all our, it's pretty full-fledged. You can save files on it, everything like that. We go down to properties here. You may notice if I go down to desktop that there's a lot less stuff here, and this is what lists what's what. Instead it things like soap bubbles and stuff like that. So I guess we can set it to soap bubbles, and then we can't change it to like the silver thing apparently. Let's see. Let's go down to appearance. Well, we can change it to silver if we want to, but we can't really change the background too much. Excuse the mouse, it's been having fits all day. So we can do things like enable the welcome screen, interestingly enough. So if we go to control panel and down to user accounts, change the way users log off. We're just going to disable that. We can select to use the welcome screen, apply options. Close out of that stuff, and we are going to restart because there's some sort of glitch that causes it to cause the thing to be unusable when you just log off. You'd have to like fully restart afterwards. So we're just going to do a restart. But you can see now we have this instead of just a plain old window. So you can technically use it as a standard Windows XP virtual machine. That takes minutes to reboot. Now this boot screen does not appear if you just boot up the virtual machine. You can only see it when you restart, whenever it will want to load. The main Windows 7 virtual machine is being extra laggy. And now we see it's spitting out some copyright information has been removed in here, but I think that's just a product of Service Pack 3 because we don't see Professional SP1. I can show you the Win version and it boots back up. So I think Virtual Machine Editions, or whatever it was called for Virtual PC back in the day, has been already installed. So we just type in our password. And for some reason the startup sound does not work, but sound does work, but I'm not going to show you because I'm going to get copyright if I go to the tour. The tour does work. And as you can tell, sound works because you just heard that sound. I can most certainly, if I can move the mouse properly, resize it a little bit here so you can actually, or not, it's just, I'm going to misclick the whole thing, so we're going to size it to there, and it's 2 seconds, boom, you resized it. Typically, you were usually able to that's the Windows 7 disk that's mysteriously appearing. But you can usually access the main computer's files via a network drive that's usually connected here. Maybe if you access it, nope. If we go to help about Windows, yes, it's definitely Service Pack 3 to Windows XP1, which version is actually here's what camera file this is here. This is Explorer. Curious because there's no shortcut thing, but that doesn't actually bring up the stats for this. Internet Explorer 6, I mean, special you know, our Windows XP recycle bin here has been no longer in the corner, so I'll move it up here. I usually prefer it up there anyway, so here on Windows 7. Now, the feature that I've never been able to get to work usually involves you first setting up the Hibernate and going under here to Windows Virtual PC under Windows XP mode to see it. Now I can show you if we just like, or that's just going to bring it up on this stuff. Sure, I clicked on the virtual machine. First, keyboard shortcuts do not work, so mainly to run and open. Let's see, let's open. Notepad, and so let's open some more here. So let's open WordPad, I guess. A couple of applications here. So I'll open 2 applications here. And we're gonna go ahead and hibernate the virtual machine. I tell you, I've never been able to get this to work because integration features are pretty much broken, but typically you go under here and it would actually have a drop down menu, which for some reason, because it's not working, is will not appear for me, or sometimes it will appear, just it'll error out when you're trying to open up the applications. So yeah, that kind of does not bode well. Another thing that's just what VMware is doing when it came to my Windows 7 virtual machine here. So there's such thing as integration features for VMware. Until we get VMware tools installed. And I'll come back on that. This is gonna take a while, isn't it? So this part's where it usually breaks. You should see an error any moment now. Of course, you won't see an error because it's just a normal machine. But there we go. It's this error that prevents us from seeing that feature. So yeah, it's a cool feature though. Just close out of this. I think you can't be a Windows XP application. Actually, I have to install something separate. But still, it just does not work. But yeah, you can use it but other than that, you'd still use it as a standard Windows XP virtual machine. There's just, there isn't any, like, personalization options when it comes to backgrounds. But, you can play a nice standard game of 3D Pinball Solitaire. Why did I say solitaire? Of course, I've somehow cheated in. He was. Oh yeah, there it is. Found it. Actually, it's pretty well for being on a double-layered virtual machine. I have no clue. Close out of that. Well, you can also take a look at standard Minesweeper game, which I have no clue how to apply. Ooh, I'm taking a chance here. Okay, so they're both touching one, so this means that one might be it. And since they're all touching it, that means this one has to be safe. And this one has to be safe. Okay. Since that's just the one touching it, I can say that's one safe as well. And I said that's one's there is definitely mine, so I can click here. It could be any of these options, but since I'll be touching it, it has to be that one, and that one's safe. That one has to be safe. Well, this is probably the best game of Minesweeper I've ever played because I am actually doing it pretty good. So since that one's touching one, that one's touching one, I mean, this one has to be a mine. Since this one's already touching a mine, this one's not, that means that has to be, this one's mine, and, oof. I have no clue now. Ooh, that's hard. Okay, so we got through that. They're all touching 3. This one is not touching 2, that means this one's not safe, and that one's safe. Since that one's, but this one here is already touching 1. Is that a bomb? Yeah, but it was. Oh, that one was safe. Wow, I did not know that, but we managed to get 2 of the mines out before we proceeded to fail. That was actually pretty good. I'm not gonna be using the end of those here. Go to it's basically your standard multi-loading tour, so copyright against me. So we can actually do things normally. This is the Professional tour. We review the Windows XP basics like taskbar, start control panel, the world of this image I was curious about the one day. It's actually from an MSN Communities photo library. So, that's pretty cool. Which I think it was like turning MSN groups. So, yeah. That's pretty cool. This, my friends, is Windows IE 6. That's good. It's IE, so it's obviously a good web browser. I'm joking. See if we can set this up now. But that's about it. But I can get integration features to work because that's what allows you to like share files, which I can't like drag that in there at all. But that's about it. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'll see you in the next one.